Humans were unstoppable. Humans did not know what it was like to lose because we had never lost ever, and we did not intend to start now. Roger Harris, a grizzled human veteran space explorer, was alone in his small survey ship on the fringes of explored space when his long-range scanners abruptly detected an unidentified vessel. Roger approached and discovered it to be of alien origin. The alien ship was badly damaged by an asteroid impact and manned by a single surviving occupant named Niran of the Kazon species. Following protocol, Roger brought the injured Niran aboard his own ship and treated his wounds. Once conscious, Niran reacted with a mixture of fear and wonder upon realizing Roger was human. "Your kind are legendary among the Kazon," Niran said, his voice quivering. "We regard humans as the most fearsome warriors in the galaxy, to be avoided at all costs due to your undefeated battle record and ruthless efficiency in war." Roger raised an eyebrow, confused but intrigued. He had never heard of the Kazon before. "Tell me more about what your kind thinks of us," Roger said. Niran spoke of the legendary Battle of Xylox, where a mere 1,000 human soldiers allegedly held off an entire Kazon armada of 100,000 for over a year, slaying Kazons by the tens of thousands before succumbing. At this, Roger's eyes narrowed. He knew there had never been a Battle of Xylox and humanity had never encountered the Kazon before. Pulse quickening, Roger slowly asked Niran where he had gotten this information. Niran happily launched into the history every Kazon hatchling was taught, speaking of humanity's unstoppable conquests of entire planets left barren and uninhabitable by human scorched earth tactics, and of the billions upon billions slain by human hands across the cosmos in their relentless expansion. At this, a very uneasy Roger began to suspect there may be a vast difference between what the Kazon had been told about humanity and the actual truth. If the Kazon truly believed humans to be galaxy-conquering monsters, how would they react upon learning it was all a lie? Roger had a sinking feeling that once the Kazon discovered the truth, they would come for humanity with a vengeance, to wipe out the species they had long cowered in fear of. Roger knew he had to get to the bottom of where these stories about humans had come from, and fast. The fate of the human race might depend on it. Although deeply troubled by Niran's revelations, Roger kept his expression neutral. "Get some rest," Roger said, patting the medical cart. "I'm going to take a look at your ship, see if I can't patch her up." Roger helped Niran into a small living quarter adjacent to the med bay before heading to the cargo hold where he had stored the damaged vessel. He tapped his earpiece. "Command, this is Explorer 1. I've made first contact with a new species, the Kazon, requesting instructions on how to proceed, as I've uncovered some disturbing information about how they perceive humanity." Roger summarized Niran's unsettling tales as he opened a wall panel on the alien ship, peering at the complex circuitry within. Command acknowledged his report, stating they would analyze the information and provide guidance shortly. The hours bled together as Roger worked to decipher the alien technology, referencing his scanner and making his best guesses. Niran hobbled in periodically, asking if he could help. Roger politely declined, but it didn't stop Niran from talking. "Did you know humans destroyed the Zytox homeworld? Stripped it of resources, then shattered it with some sort of planet cracker weapon. 1 trillion dead," Niran said casually. Roger clenched his fists, wondering what sort of monsters Niran's people thought humans were. Each new story was worse than the last. "I heard humans enslaved the Bainar, supposedly used them for food as well, fattened them up like livestock." Suppressing his revulsion, Roger kept his tone light as he spliced two conduits together. "Is that so?" After a week of painstaking trial and error, the foreign ship finally hummed to life, repaired. Niran shook Roger's hand vigorously. "I can't thank you enough, friend. You've saved my life and I'm forever in your debt," Niran said. Roger's comm beeped. "Explorer 1, diplomatic ship Peacemaker is en route to your position. They will tail the Kazon vessel back to its origin point and open a dialogue to determine the source of their misinformation about humanity. Roger was relaying the news to Niran when a bolt of searing pain shot through his shoulder. Niran stood in the open hatch of his ship, some sort of laser pistol in his clawed hand. "My people may fear you, but I see the truth now," Niran sneered. "You're pathetic, weak. No monster would have helped me as you did. I look forward to the invasion. We'll wipe you out and take your worlds." Niran turned to flee into his ship, but Roger snatched up a plasma cutter and lunged. Roger saw red as he charged forward, plasma cutter blazing in his fist. Niran's eyes widened, and he scrambled to bring his weapon to bear, but Roger was faster. He slammed into the treacherous alien, both of them crashing into the curved wall of the airlock. Niran's pistol clattered to the deck as they grappled, a tangle of thrashing limbs and snarling curses. Roger felt the flesh of his wound tear as they fought, fresh blood soaking through his jumpsuit. But he ignored the pain. With a vicious twist, Roger wrenched Niran's gun arm behind his back until he heard the bone snap. Niran shrieked, his struggles intensifying, but Roger held him fast. He kicked Niran's legs out from under him, sending them both toppling to the floor in a graceless heap. Roger pressed his knee into the small of Niran's back, pinning him down, and shoved the hissing plasma cutter up under his chin. "Give me one good reason I shouldn't slice your head off right now," Roger spat, his voice rough with anger. Niran's eyes glittered with malice even as the superheated edge of the cutter sizzled against his throat. "Go ahead, human. Kill me. It changes nothing. My ship has already transmitted your vessel's coordinates and specs to the Kazon fleet. They're studying it as we speak, learning your weaknesses." Roger's grip on the plasma cutter tightened, his knuckles white. Niran smirked up at him, all traces of the grateful refugee act gone. "The fleet will reach your colony world, New Tycho, within the month. We'll burn it to ash, leave it as nothing more than a memorial to Kazon victory." "How you'll choke on that victory," Roger snarled. "Humanity's restraint is the only myth here. We haven't held back all these years out of weakness, but out of principle. You're forcing our hand." Niran laughed, a cold, cruel sound. "I'm sure your principles will be a great comfort as we put your people to the sword. The Kazon will relish proving once and for all that the human reputation is unearned." Roger leaned in close, his eyes hard as flint. "No. When the dust settles, you'll realize our reputation for annihilating our foes was understated, if anything." Bold words from a single human on the edges of space. "How do you plan to stop an entire invasion fleet alone?" Roger's lips curled into a smile utterly devoid of warmth. "Oh, I won't be alone. You're going to help me." Niran's brow furrowed in confusion, his mouth opening to retort. He never got the chance. Roger slammed his forehead into Niran's, the sickening crack of the alien's skull against the deck plating echoing through the airlock. Niran went limp, out cold. Roger sat back on his haunches, breathing hard. He reached up to tap his comm unit. "Computer, prep the medbay. Looks like we'll be doing an unscheduled upload." Sometime later, Niran groaned, his head pounding. He tried to reach up to probe the tender lump on his temple, only to find he couldn't move his arms or his legs. He was strapped down to an acceleration couch, restraint so tight he could scarcely wiggle. "Ah, good, you're awake," Roger said, coming into view above him. He held a neural jack in one hand, its wicked point gleaming under the harsh medbay lights. "Wondering what this is for? While you were napping, I took the liberty of copying your brain patterns to the ship's computer." Niran tried to turn his head to no avail. What are you—" Roger smiled thinly. "Computer, say hello to our guest." "Hello, Niran?" The computer's voice was a perfect imitation of Niran's own, flanging quality and all. "How can I assist you today?" Roger leaned in close, his voice a low purr. "Humanity now has access to everything you know, every Kazon secret, every strategy." His grin turned feral, "including your invasion plans." Roger's fingers flew across the console, patching his neural jack into the ship's systems. With Niran's brain patterns integrated, it only took moments for the Kazon's technical knowledge to flood the screens. Roger opened a comm channel, his voice tight with urgency. New Tycho Command. This is Roger Harris. The Kazon are coming. ETA 1 month. Repeat. Hostile alien force inbound to New Tycho. The line crackled. Understood, Harris. Evacuation and defense protocols initiating. What's your status? Roger glanced at his blood-soaked shoulder. Intact, bringing intel. As the colony burst into action, ships launching and troops mobilizing, Roger pored over the Kazon ship specs. His hands danced over the interface, inputting commands, reconfiguring his own vessel based on their technology. Niran strained against his bonds. You're insane. You can't stop the might of the Kazon with one ship. Watch me, Roger growled. He rerouted power from life support to the fabricators. Components took shape. Advanced shields, devastating weaponry. But even with Niran's knowledge, Roger knew it wouldn't be enough. New Tycho was too small a target, the Kazon too numerous. He needed to end this war before it could begin. An idea took shape, reckless and desperate. Roger opened a channel broadcasting on Kazon frequencies. Attention, Kazon fleet. This is Roger Harris of Earth. I challenge you to face me. One human against your armada. Prove your strength. Niran gaped at him. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Roger just smiled grimly as he sent the coordinates, far from New Tycho. Then he input a new heading and fired the thrusters. On the Kazon command ship, the transmission played. The commander slammed a fist on the arm of his chair. Insolent creature! This human dares mock us. He turned to his crew. All ships to those coordinates. We will crush this gnat and mount his bones on our hull. The Kazon fleet tore through hyperspace, dropping into real space in a blaze of weapons fire. Beams crisscrossed the void, all converging on Roger's lone ship. But the blasts splashed harmlessly against the shields. Roger had tuned them to the exact frequency of Kazon weapons. Is that the best you can do? Niran's voice rang out from the human ship, the computer hurling insults. I thought the Kazon were warriors, not mewling infants. The commander went purple with rage. Pursue that ship, tear it apart. The Kazon fleet surged forward, firing relentlessly. Roger jinked and wove, always staying ahead, drawing more and more of the ships into a dense knot as they tried to box him in. Niran watched the readouts, eyes widening as he realized Roger's plan. No, you'll kill us both. Roger met his gaze. A small price to pay. He opened the comm one last time. We warned you what would happen. Then he gunned the thrusters, arrowing straight for the heart of the Kazon formation. The enemy ships tried to scatter, but there were too many, packed too closely. At the last second, Roger engaged the transporter, beaming himself, Niran, and the Singularity Core from engineering into the waiting escape pod. The pod shot clear as Roger's ship. Reactors overloading, shields down, impacted the Kazon flagship. A new sun bloomed against the stars. The detonation ripped through the Kazon fleet, exotic particles and radiation shredding through hulls like tissue paper. Shockwaves tore the ships apart, leaving nothing but drifting wreckage. In the escape pod, Niran stared at the carnage, numb with shock. Roger sagged back in his seat, pale from blood loss, but a hard light of satisfaction in his eyes. I told you, our restraint was the real myth. He glanced at Niran. What will you tell them now? Niran swallowed hard. The truth, that we were wrong. Humanity is not to be trifled with. Roger nodded. See that you do. He gestured to the viewport. That's what it looks like when humans stop holding back. He engaged the pod's comm, signaling New Tycho. As medical ships homed in on his beacon, Roger allowed himself a tired smile. Just another day for a human explorer on the edges of known space. In a blinding burst of light, the cramped escape pod winked into existence on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel. Peacemaker. Roger, Niran, and the portable jump drive materialized in a tangled heap on the cold metal deck plating. Captain Ava Novak leapt from her command chair, rushing to Roger's side. He was deathly pale, crimson blood still oozing steadily from the charred hole in his shoulder. Novak helped him to his feet, slinging his good arm over her shoulders. "Report, Harris," she barked, steering him towards the medical station set into the rear bulkhead. "What the hell happened out there?" Roger drew a shuddering breath, his voice thin with pain and exhaustion. "The Kazon fleet, it's gone, destroyed, caught the bastards with their pants down and wiped them out." A resounding cheer went up from the bridge crew, fists pumping the air and backs slapping in celebration. Novak allowed herself a tight smile as she eased Roger onto the waiting biobed. But Roger held up a trembling hand, his expression grave. The cheers faded. "This is only the beginning," he rasped out. "That fleet was just the tip of the iceberg. Niran's mind, it's all in there. The Kazon Empire spans hundreds of worlds, tens of billions of soldiers. What I destroyed was barely a fraction of their full might." Silence fell like a shroud over the bridge, the weight of Roger's words sinking in. Novak's jaw tightened. "How long do we have?" Roger's lips twisted. "A few years at best, before they regroup and hit us again, harder than ever." From where he lay bound on the floor, Niran began to laugh. It was an awful sound, rasping and mirthless. "Are you humans? You have no idea what's coming. The Kazon will descend upon your worlds like a swarm of locusts. We will blot out your suns with our ships. Your vaunted tenacity is meaningless. Nothing can save you from annihilation." Roger pushed himself up on his elbows, his gaze locking with Niran's. When he spoke, his voice was terrifyingly calm. "No, we won't survive. None of us will." He looked to Novak, a wordless understanding passing between them. She nodded curtly. Roger turned back to Niran. "It didn't have to be this way. We wanted peace, but you wouldn't have it. You insisted on war." He leaned in close, blood-flecked lips peeling back from his teeth. "You wanted to see the real face of humanity? Well, now you will." At Novak's signal, Roger's jump drive was rushed to engineering, the crew working frantically to integrate it into the Peacemaker's systems. As they labored, Roger limped over to Niran, towering above the alien. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Are you familiar with the human concept of mutually assured destruction?" Niran stared up at him blankly. Roger chuckled darkly. "An old doctrine from Earth. It states that an attack by one side will result in the total annihilation of both. A principle so terrifying it prevented war. Until now." Niran's eyes widened, realization and horror dawning. Roger nodded to Novak. "Engage the drive." Instantly, the Peacemaker vanished from high orbit above New Tycho. It rematerialized in the heart of Kazaria Prime, capital world of the Kazon Empire, amidst the most densely populated city. For a fraction of a second, a stunned Kazon populace looked skyward at the sudden arrival of the alien ship. And then the Peacemaker exploded. Just as Roger's ship had at the center of the Kazon fleet, the Peacemaker detonated in a blinding flash of exotic particles and radiation. The blast consumed the city instantly, scouring it from the face of the planet. But the destruction did not stop there. The jump drive, even as it was destroyed, replicated itself. Drawing on the new information in Niran's mind, it beamed copies of itself to every Kazon world in existence. On 1,000 worlds, the citizens of the Empire looked up in confusion as a second sun suddenly flared in the sky. And then, one by one, those suns went dark, snuffed out by an endless wave of fire and death. In his final moments, Roger had ensured the total destruction of the Kazon. Their fleets, their armies, their civilians. In the blink of an eye, all were reduced to ash. An entire galactic civilization erased from the cosmos like a smudge wiped from a lens. The Kazon were no more, but neither was Roger or Novak, or the crew of the Peacemaker. In the end, they too were consumed by the flames of mutually assured destruction. Across the vastness of space, on the handful of human colonies that remained, the scattered and shell-shocked remnants of mankind slowly began to pick up the pieces. They had survived, but at what cost? Humanity had won its first war against an alien race, but it was a victory tinged with the bitter ashes of Pyrrhic tragedy. The cost had been everything. And yet, even in their grief, the survivors clung to a grim pride. For no matter the price, even if it meant their own destruction, one truth remained inviolate. Humans never lose. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.